There's a lot of data here, I apologize for it, but it summarizes the major characteristics of SARS, MERS, and SARS coronavirus 2. It's a good way for you to understand why this thing is so much larger in scope than anything we've seen in the past. So the first, let's just look at the number of countries involved. There's over 40 countries affected with SARS coronavirus 2, about 28, 29 with MERS and SARS coronavirus. The number of cases for SARS coronavirus 2 far exceeds both the SARS outbreak and the MERS outbreak. The mortality rate is about 2 to 3%, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. There are currently about 9,000 cases that are under critical care, meaning that they're probably getting some form of respiratory support. It's about 18 to 19% of the people develop really serious disease that require respiratory support. About 83% of the cases are mild or asymptomatic. It means you can be infected with this virus and not know it. And that makes it difficult to control. The mortality rate bounces around depending on who you talk to. 2 to 3% is probably not a bad estimate, but the mortality rate in Wuhan was about 4.1%, 2.8% in a different part of the country. It's 0.17 to 1% in different areas of the world. Probably the best way to get an estimate of the mortality rate of this virus is from the Diamond Princess cruise ship, where 3,600 people were sort of locked in a closed container with a highly contagious respiratory virus that could undergo fecal spread as well. So in that case, right now the mortality rate is about 0.6%. There's about 750 people that have been infected. Most of the epidemiologists I've talked to expect somewhere around 50% of the people will have been infected in that cruise ship. About 36 are still under critical care, so whatever that number turns out to be is probably a pretty good estimate, keeping in mind that there's an age skewing toward older individuals on the cruise ship. So again, this is an example of a disease where it's good to be young and not so good to be old or male. The incubation period is 2 to 14 days. This is a real problem because now if you're quarantining people, you have to keep them in quarantine for 14 days. SARS and MERS were much more limited. The RO rate, or the number of people that get infected from one infected person, for the 1918 flu, for example, was about 2.2 cases per every flu-infected individual. SARS was about 1.8 to 2.5. MERS is low. SARS-2 is around 3. That means on average, one person will infect 3 people. And this makes it also difficult to control.